Good evening, friends. Welcome again to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside lovely Louisville, Kentucky. Back in Maryland is my good friend, John Webster.
Hey, Gary, glad to be here again with you. Hope you had a great weekend, my friend. And again, you know what I'm going to say, Gary? Another great week and weekend of sports. Exciting
Amen.
things are happening. I can't wait to talk to you about it. But first, Gary, you know what we need to do? We need to say hi to our good friend, our producer, the guy that makes it happen, Mr. John Pitt.
That's right. What's happening, Big John?
Nothing much, guys. How you doing?
Doing
Right.
great, man.
Good.
All right. Yeah. Well, as always, there's a lot to digest in a little bit of time, but I guess we can probably start off here by talking about, well, giving honor and tribute to just a great college football coach in Bobby Bowden, who guided Florida State to two national championships. He passed away over the weekend at the age of 91. I have some personal recollections and remembrances of him from my days working in Florida and covering Florida State during that heyday, especially during the Charlie Ward Heisman Trophy days. And I mean, when I wasn't working, I was an FSU fan because they were just fun to watch. That was a golden period in Florida football history between FSU, Florida, and Miami. But Bowden really found a way to light it up on the scoreboard and field. He had dynamic players. He had wicked defensive players. I keep thinking about the guy, Shade Tree, that they used to call him. I mean, he just sent so many guys to the NFL at that time. But the thing about Bobby Bowden, obviously a great coach. When you win two national championships, especially since it seemed like when they had the wide right game, and it seemed like they were never going to get over the hump, and then they did, and then they won another national championship, and that pretty much sealed his greatness. Not that he wasn't great before that, but you win one national championship, that's great, but you win two, which is hard, at any time, even if you're Notre Dame, John. None of this is easy, but really, obviously one of the great coaches of all time, second most wins. And, again, just an all around down home folksy guy, whether he was saying dad gummit or, uttering one of his Bobbyisms that you can Google. Is probably like a page full. He was just fun to watch, and, God rest his soul. And Bobby, thanks a lot for the memories.
Gary, you said something very true. He was a great football coach, without a doubt. But you know what, Gary? He was an even better person.
Amen.
Unbelievable person. And today, you listen to the comments, and yesterday, nobody has a negative or sideways comment about Bobby Bowden. One of the things that I heard yesterday, I was listening to Mark Rick talk, Coach Rick. And I was listening to Kirk Herbstreit, and they said that Bobby Bowden, the players didn't fear him. They just didn't want to let him down. How many
Yeah.
coaches do you know like that, Gary? I mean,
It's a short list, that's for sure.
and I'm not knocking any other coach. Coaches have to coach the way they are successful, where they feel comfortable. But Bobby Bowden was a unique guy. I mean, and you look at what he did in the 90s. It really started in the 80s. I remember when they really came on the scene. I can go back to the Fiesta Bowl in the 80s, and they played Nebraska. And I remember Nebraska was up 10-0 on Florida State. And then Florida State ran off like 20, 21, maybe 24 straight points and ended up blowing Nebraska out the game. And that's when, you started noticing Florida State. And the thing about Florida State, Bobby Bowden would go anywhere, any place, anytime to play you. He took Florida State up to Michigan, played there. He took them, of course, to Notre Dame, played there. They came up short at Notre Dame, Gary. I don't want to, I just want you to know that, Gary. But,
Yeah, okay.
but he was just a wonderful coach and a wonderful man. And you feel for him a lot of times, like the Miami games with the wide right one, wide right two. I think it was three wide rights he lost to the U. And
Mhm.
he always persevered. He always held his chin high, and he found the way to get through each situation. And they were, like you said, in the '90s, them, Miami, and Florida. Whew, unbelievable football, man.
Yeah.
Unbelievable football.
Yeah, I feel real fortunate again, to have been down in Florida during that golden period, and it was one of those things where you were in a territory where, okay, at first you start to think people choose sides between the Seminoles and the Gators, but then that team to the south always reminded you, yeah, we're still in the equation too. We're still in the discussion. Don't forget about us. And somehow they would remind folks, I mean, even after Jimmy Johnson left for the NFL, that they were still a force to be reckoned with, whether they were playing Notre Dame or FSU. And but again, Bobby, he won some of those battles and lost a few of them, as you noted. It was just fun to see those kind of games because they were always compelling. It was must see TV.
Yep.
And again, on a personal note with Bowden, I remember when I was in high school before he went to FSU and he was at West Virginia, and I almost got kind of run out of West Virginia. Which shows the high bar that folks had for football there. If you ever saw We Are Marshall, when you were talking about the measure of a man, I can't really verify how true this scene was when he gave Marshall the game films, but it wouldn't surprise me if he did because he really was that kind of guy. He was that kind of coach.
Hey, Gary, you know what I read yesterday about Coach Bowden and Marshall? When they had the unfortunate accident, the plane crash, he wanted to dedicate the season to Marshall, and he wanted the West Virginia team to wear Marshall jerseys. And if
Yeah,
you know anything about
that I
West
did
Virginia,
hear about. Yeah, I
and if you know
remember that.
anything about West Virginia and Marshall and the rivalry the two of them have, that's really, really doing something. And that again, that shows the character of that man.
Yeah, yeah, they had an emblem on their helmets. That I do believe was true. And again, as the son of a West Virginia native, and who very familiar with football in that state. That I mean, even now, Bowden, even before he passed, Bowden is still revered there, and they keep wondering, well, what might have been had he stayed. But again, the sport being what it is, you're judged by your record, and he ended up leaving, and the rest is history with what he did at Florida State. But I think we really, we owe a debt of gratitude as sports fans. I owe a debt of gratitude as a sports writer to him, for helping me, just make my job easier because, at the end of the day, sports is about fun. It's about entertainment. It's about a release, and his programs definitely gave us that. No matter what side of the fence you were on, no matter who you rooted for the sport, and he was part of the sport. He was college football as we know it.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
Yeah. Let's see. Well, Major League Baseball. We said this a few weeks ago, and it's starting to happen, that the New York Mets would eventually fade. And I know that injuries have play a role in things like that. They're dealing with them now. But the Phillies, as some people predicted, were going to make that charge, even if it is a bad division. That still, you gotta go out and win it, even against bad teams. Sorry about the phone and the fax. Apologize for that. But John, is everything happening the way that you thought it would? Did you think it was going to happen sooner as opposed to later?
Well, the National League East has flipped over now. The Phillies are in the driver's seat. They're in first place. I think they're up at what, 3 games, Gary, over the
Yeah.
Mets right now.
Yeah, I
And
mean, they were only I think it was like they were maybe 3 games back like 10 days ago. I mean, you're talking about a 6-game turnaround in a short period of time.
And I don't see the Mets really straightening out their schedule in the next month. They have 2 series against the Giants, 2 against the Dodgers, and 1 against the Nats. That's a pretty rough schedule, man. That's a pretty rough schedule. And also, the Mets don't have the number one pitcher right now, the Grom right now.
Yeah.
I don't know when he's going to return. And when he does return, they may be too far gone for him to really do anything. And the crazy thing with the Phillies, they have one of the worst offenses in baseball. And they are really doing a good job, playing good defense, getting good pitching, and they're making things happen. And I know there's one guy that used to be here in D.C. that's very happy that he's in Philadelphia right now. His name would be Bryce Harper.
Yeah. And well, I'm not going to say I'm happy to see him thrive there or whatever. I'm not going to knock him either. It's just this is year 3. I think he's found his comfort zone. I think they have found enough support around him, and they're just getting the job done. Now, of course, in that division, you got to get through August. I mean, this is probably the toughest month. It's one thing to get on top. It's another thing to stay there. And when you've got a bunch of the division teams, you talk about that schedule. But I do think the Phillies are equipped right now to be in control. They're healthy. They've got a good manager too. That's one thing we ought to note. I mean, Joe Girardi is one heck of a manager, and I think he just needed to get the guys that he wanted and get the lineup that he wanted. It's a long season. So a 6-month season, yeah, this is the time for the Phillies. I can't believe I'm giving them that much dap, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah. And if I have to put a pick out there, I'm rolling with the Phillies. I don't think the Mets have enough, but there is a team sitting out there that can really do something and maybe make a difference, and that's the Atlanta Braves. They could catch fire and do a few things because they're playing good ball right now too.
Yeah, that's the thing. The fun part about baseball, I always say that the first 2 months can really set the tone for how the season goes. But at the same time, you can't buy too much into it. I mean, again, with the Nats 2 years ago, they were 19-31 entering June, and they go on to win the World Series. All they had to do was get healthy. All they had to do was just like put some spit and polish and something, a piece of gum on that bullpen, and things would start to fall into place, which they did. I think you're seeing almost the same thing with the Phillies. And that's the fun part again about baseball, is that every time it really looks bad, that's when you kind of pull it together and do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Let's see what else we got to talk about, because there is plenty in sports. Oh yeah. Let's see. What did we learn from the Olympics, John? The Olympics, for the United States, they end up leading the medal count. They end up leading the gold medal count. They were trailing China for a while. And of course, part of that medal total was helped by athletes, current and former, from the University of Kentucky. I want to say it's about 20 medals that they accounted for. But the thing
Not that you want to brag or anything, right?
No, hey, look, I'm a resident, but that little factoid came across my computer today, and I said, hey, that is interesting. I mean, I knew about Sydney McLaughlin, and I knew about Kenny Harrison, but all these other ones, of course, Devin Booker, being another one. But I say, wow, they accounted for almost a quarter of the medal total, which again, I think it speaks to the depth of Kentucky's athletic programs. But I think in general, what the United States did, it really proved just how strong the program is. But the thing that really impressed me the most was the U.S. women's basketball team.
Yeah.
I can't foresee any time that they're going to lose even a game in Olympic competition. And if Dawn Staley stays as coach, I mean, again, I think they can run the table again in Paris in 2024.
Can I give you breaking news?
But she got hired. Dawn Staley got hired as an NBA coach, right?
No, that would be great breaking news. But she has decided not to return as the USA basketball coach.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you for the breaking news. See, that's supposed to be my job, but I'm glad you're on the computer too.
Hey, you showed me how to do it. I'm just doing, dadgummit. You're my Bobby Bowden, man.
Yeah. Hey, well, look, job well done. And besides, she's got a pretty good day job at South Carolina, and again with her, speaking of South Carolina, when I look at what she did with that Olympic team, I keep thinking what could have happened when she had Asia Wilson, like during COVID. I mean, how good could South Carolina have been? Would they have run the table a year ago?
Hey, the team that they had this year, they were unbelievable, and I give a credit to Coach Staley. She is an absolute great coach. She gets the most out of her players each and every time they go on the court. They play the way she played when she was in school, and that's tenacious and never giving up an inch, just always on the go. And she was tremendous as a college player, and she is tremendous as a college coach. So,
yeah. And I misspoke about Asia Wilson, who had left 2 years before that 2020 team. But yeah, what you said about Staley being a great college coach, a tremendous college coach. What she did with that team, is just phenomenal. I mean, again, I can't think of anything that she's lost at. Can you?
No, she's won at every level. College, pros. I mean, she's won at every level. She's done it.
Yeah. I think the other thing too that we learned about the Olympics is that the U.S. men's basketball team can really put it together when they needed to. And remember, we didn't have much faith in them when the Olympics started. And I think we even went as far as to say they would be lucky to even medal. And here they are with yet another gold medal.
I think we need to burn that tape, Gary. I don't really want to see that one where we said that.
You mentioned basketball. The women, I think, are in better position than the guys are right now. The men, on the other hand, I think are going to have to really scratch and claw to get to get not just a gold, Gary, but to get on the medal stand. They don't have an inside presence. This team doesn't have Steph Curry. You're missing Bradley Beal. You don't have LeBron James. You don't have Anthony Davis, and the list goes on and on.
But yeah, it was a concern. I give them credit as well too. I watched the game. Was it Friday night? And they played together really well. And the thing that makes it even more compelling, these were not the top echelon of players that the Team USA took over there. Let's not take anything away from the players that played. They did a great job. But let's keep in mind, off the top of my head, Kyrie Irving stayed home. LeBron James stayed home. Steph Curry stayed home. Anthony Davis stayed home. Ja Morant stayed home. The list goes on. And Coach Popovich did a wonderful job putting these guys together. They took a rough first game when they lost to France, and then came back and beat France for the gold medal. And that's not an easy thing to do. A lot of these guys, as you and I were talking about before, Gary, these these teams now have players who play in the NBA, go back to these countries now and play, and it's not an uneven playing field. It's not 1992 or 1996 with the Dream Team. These teams are out there competing, and the United States has to be ready to play every night. One thing that I said a few weeks ago, which was true, they can't walk out there and just think because they have Team USA on their shirt that they're going to win a game. And let's not forget the great play of Kevin Durant. He did a really great job. He carried them in a lot of situations. And, hey, man, hats off to him. He did a wonderful job, man. And that whole team, Draymond Green, Devin Booker, Damian Lillard, JaVale McGee. They're a tough team, man. Tough.
Yeah. Well, speaking of great play, the Pro Football Hall of Fame honored great play by great players with a 7-member class, headed, of course, by Peyton Manning. I've covered a couple of these. I've watched a lot of these enshrinements, and I, John, I really think this is one of the best classes that they've had in years. Drew Pearson, that's long overdue. I'm just so surprised it's taken this long for him to get in there.
And he made it a point to let Michael Irvin know that he is the real number 88.
Oh yeah. He has said that for years too. He's kidding him. And hey, who's going to argue with him?
I still say he pushed off on the pass in the Minnesota playoff game, though, Gary. I still say he pushed off.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to say anything about that. Now, John Pitt might have something different to say about that, but I understand your sentiment. But again, that's the great thing. We can still debate this, almost 40 years later.
And he was a big time player. That Minnesota game, the big catch. How about the Thanksgiving Day game against the Redskins when Clint Longley came in the game? Well, I'm sorry, what is now called the WFT, Washington Football Team. Roger Staubach gets hurt. Clint Longley comes in, throws a bomb, ruins my Thanksgiving dinner, pretty much. So I don't know about your dinner, but it ruined mine.
Hey, I think we talked about this maybe like last week or something. We can think about all of these games that hurt. We could talk about the ones we love too, like the Monday Night Miracle. I'm sure John Pitt is kind of like left the room, when we brought that up. But anyway, but I really enjoyed this class because. And you can't argue. You can debate a lot of Hall of Famers. I'm not going to bring up any names, but one thing about this class, I do think they got it right with coaches and players. Like, again, Tom Flores. How did it take so long for him to get in the Hall of Fame? Calvin. Calvin Johnson goes in maybe a little sooner than many of us expected. But again,
they said Calvin Johnson was the earliest player to get in other than Jim Brown. And who was the other one they said? It was Jim Brown and somebody else. It wasn't Barry Sanders. It was Jim Brown and somebody. I can't even think. Oh, maybe it's Gale Sayers. Jim Brown, Gale. I can't remember.
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah, it might have been Gale Sayers. But yeah, that just shows what kind of impact Megatron had, in his career to get in. I guess it was almost his first ballot or something.
Yeah.
He didn't even have to wait that long.
Right.
I think the one that I really, I think, he probably could have gone in a little sooner. In fact, I think he probably did go on his first year eligibility too. Charles Woodson. Charles Woodson might have been one of the best defenders I've ever seen. And when I think about really lockdown guys that, nobody would try to throw against, Woodson's one and Ronnie Lott was the other, even though Ronnie Lott was the safety, but nobody, tried to challenge Ronnie Lott, and very few people tried to challenge Charles Woodson. He was just that good for two teams.
And tough as nails. Tough
Oh yeah,
as nails.
yeah. I mean,
Whew.
and again, I never thought I'd be saying that about a Michigan Wolverine, but again, it's one thing when when they take off that helmet and put on the helmet of the Green Bay Packers. My other fun team to watch. But I think this was one of their strong classes, and I don't want to ignore John Lynch. I mean, John Lynch was a heck of a defender as well. It's just the balance of this particular class, as opposed to a lot of years. I think they had a lot of the right guys going in at the right time.
Yeah.
Pearson, of course, was overdue. You know who else is overdue, John?
Who's that?
Joe Jacoby.
Yep. And I unfortunately don't think he will ever get in. He should be in. Russ Grimm. Is Russ Grimm in?
I think no, I'm not sure. I'm not sure, but of course we can look that up.
You know,
We know we know the Bostic's. We know Bostic's not in.
Mark May's not in. That whole group, the Hogs, they should have been in. They
And Russ
don't
Grimm is in. Yeah, 2010, John. Yeah.
Okay,
he
Russ
went
Grimm
11
is
years
in.
ago.
Jacoby's not. Jacoby should definitely be in there. He should definitely be in. I mean, think about the battles he used to have with Lawrence Taylor. Sunday afternoons, the Washington team is going to play the New York Giants, and Coach Gibbs is giving the assignment of Lawrence Taylor to Joe Jacoby. The battles they had were unbelievable, unbelievable. And I think, in my opinion, a part of the situation why the Washington team does not get their due that I think they should is because that next year when they're going for the repeat for the Super Bowl, they lost to the Oakland Raiders, Los Angeles Raiders. And I think because of that, they don't get the recognition that I think they should have, as San Francisco is recognized as the team of the 80s. And they were right there with the Washington team battling, but San Francisco got 3 Super Bowls out of it. Washington got 2.
Yeah. And, the other thing, too, to keep in mind is that, people, I think, hold it against Washington for winning 2 of those titles in strike seasons.
Yeah, that's fair.
And again, it's like, well, okay, the second one I always thought was curious because, like, everybody was on strike, but I mean, they held it against them because they stacked their team with replacements who won games. I think they went 3-0 or something, during.
You're exactly correct. And
Yeah.
guess what, Gary? They're holding it against them because Coach Gibbs and Bobby Beathard took the strike seriously and put together a team where other teams did not take it seriously and did not put together well-oiled machines.
Yeah.
And matter of fact, that, as they call it, scab team beat a Dallas Cowboy team on Monday Night Football, and most of the players on the Washington team were substitute players. And a lot of the Cowboy players had crossed the picket line. Tony Dorsett, Randy White, Oh, I'm sorry, John. John Pitt, I didn't mean, I got going. I'm sorry, John. I didn't mean to bring that up. Man, I'm sorry. Gary, why didn't you stop me?
I mean, wait a minute. Why stop a rolling boulder, man? I mean, come on. There's just no point in it. But again, we can debate this, forever, because I think the fun thing about being in sports is that you can wonder what might have been. Now, okay, I'll tell you one discussion we are not going to have about who was the greatest basketball player, because I mean, one, I'm just tired of it. I mean, I'm not going to mention any names. That's one. I'm going to take a vow and say, look, let's not discuss this. Let's just enjoy the players of their different eras for what they were. And, again, we all have our favorites and we'll just stick with that. How about that, John?
I agree, because I think what happens a lot of times, we don't recognize what's happened before, Gary.
Mhm.
I don't think people I'll just say this, Gary. I know you don't want to go into names, and I don't mean any harm. I'm not trying to disagree with you, but a lot of people don't understand what Bill Russell did. And I give you another
Yeah.
one. They don't understand what Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did,
Or
you
Will
know,
Chamberlain.
or Wilt Chamberlain. And there are some that right now want to judge LeBron James. And I've always said, wait until somebody finishes their career.
Yeah.
Now, do I think LeBron is going to be looked upon as one of the best ever? Absolutely. He is a tremendous ball player. But I try to stay away, like you say, from the greatest because you have many great players. Whether it's LeBron, whether it's Jordan, whether it's Jabbar, whether it's Wilt, whether it's Russell, you've had many, many. Karl Malone, you've had many, many great players. Many.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I have nothing more to say after that, John. It's just, we just need to enjoy all of these players for what they were and enjoy the
Absolutely.
different eras. And, of course, you and I, we're old enough that we can remember so many different eras and seeing that torch pass, say from Russell and Chamberlain to Dr. J to Bird and Larry and now Michael Jordan and then now to Kobe and LeBron and and Shaq as well. I mean, that's the great thing about this. It's much like how in baseball how people want to compare Barry Bonds to say Babe Ruth or Aaron to Babe Ruth. Let's just understand and appreciate how all three of them were great in their particular eras. I mean, and Willie Mays too. I didn't mean to leave him out because, I remember he was my father's personal favorite.
But you see what's happening, Gary? We both did it. You try to name great ones, excuse me, and you're going to forget somebody.
Yeah, yeah.
Just like you forgot Willie Mays. In the basketball side, I forgot to mention Kobe Bryant, one of the greats.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that happens when you try to start saying great. I forgot to say Larry Bird. Come on now.
Well,
There's so many
Yeah.
in all these sports.
Yeah. But John, it's been fun, man. We've covered quite a few topics. It's just like now we're taking a deep breath from the Olympics, and now we can look forward to NFL training camp and the beginning of college football season in a few weeks. Folks, we really appreciate you all watching. We thank you for your support. Please mention us, to your friends and family, like we do, because we want our friends and family to be proud of us, and we want people to join in the discussion. So thanks a lot again for tuning in. John, it's been fun, man. John Pitt, thank you so much for all your help and making us look good and stuff. And hey, let's come back and do this again.
Hey man, I enjoyed this like I always do. Gary, have a great week. John Pitt, have a great week. You out there watching us, continue to watch us. Have a great week and come back and see us again next week. Take care.
Peace.